You know, usually when we want to learn something new, we sort of sit in the audience like we're watching a magic show.
Right, yeah. We just consume the final product.
Exactly. We read the finished book, we watch the polished documentary, and we just let the final product wash over us. We get completely mesmerized by the prestige of it all.
But we rarely get the chance to understand the mechanics, like how our attention was actually being directed.
Yeah, we never see the hidden wires or the mirrors or the trapdoors that made the illusion work in the first place. But today, for you listening, we are kicking open the stage door.
Oh, absolutely. It's a fascinating look under the hood.
And it really is. We're not just watching the show today. We are looking at the literal, behind-the-scenes playbook the magician uses to keep you completely spellbound.
Yeah, our source material today is totally unique.
It is. It's an internal structural roadmap, and it's titled The Automatic Rich, a documentary script blueprint.
Which is basically a structural guide, right? It's specifically designed to create a highly engaging 20-minute YouTube documentary.
Right. One that summarizes the financial concepts from the book, I Will Teach You to Be Rich. And our goal for this deep dive is to tackle this on two fronts.
Okay, lay it out.
First, we're going to extract the actual step-by-step wealth-building system that this blueprint outlines. But second, we're going to decode the psychological strategies this document uses.
Because it really uses some intense tricks to keep viewers utterly glued to the screen.
Exactly. So if you've ever wondered why you just, cannot stop watching certain video essays, or, on the flip side, why millions of people who earn objectively good money still end up totally broke, well, we are unpacking the hidden systems behind both.
It really is the perfect intersection of financial mechanics and human psychology.
It really is.
Because before we even look at the wealth-building steps, we have to look at the strict guidelines for how that information is delivered.
Yeah, the rules are crazy.
Right. If you look at the Notebook LM guidelines at the bottom of our source material, it reads less like a creative writing prompt and more like a precise psychological operation.
It is intense. I mean, the framework suggests using simple American English, which is normal, but it strictly caps every single section of the video at exactly 350 to 450 words.
Which is incredibly short.
Super short. But the pacing requirements are what really stand out to me. It outlines the need for a new hook every 10 to 15 seconds.
Wow.
And a curiosity element every 30 to 40 seconds. And it insists, demands, that every single section ends on a cliffhanger.
Right. And if we connect this to the bigger picture of modern digital media, this is the exact anatomy of attention engineering.
Attention engineering, I like that.
Yeah, it's a structure perfectly designed for high retention in an incredibly distracted world.
I have to admit, though, I kind of want to push back on this a little bit.
Okay, go for it.
Well, the blueprint explicitly says to explain every concept so a 10-year-old can understand it.
Right, the fifth grader rule.
Yeah. But if we are simplifying complex financial systems to the level of a fifth grader, and constantly distracting the viewer with a new hook every 10 seconds, aren't we losing the crucial grown-up nuances of how money actually works?
I see what you're saying.
It almost feels like we're insulting the audience's intelligence.
That's a very natural fear, honestly. The idea that accessibility automatically equals a lack of depth.
Exactly.
But what's happening here actually taps into the underlying psychology of adult learning, particularly when it comes to finance.
Okay, how so?
Well, the strategy isn't relying on simplicity because the audience isn't intelligent. It's doing it because adult attention spans, especially in a world of constant information overload, they just require constant resetting.
So all those hooks and cliffhangers are basically like cognitive reset buttons.
Exactly. Think of it as clearing the cognitive runway so the actual lessons can land.
Okay, that makes sense.
Because finance is a topic that carries a massive emotional load for a lot of people. When an expert drops technical jargon, it doesn't make the listener feel smart.
Oh, it definitely triggers anxiety.
Right. It makes people feel incompetent. And the natural human response to that feeling is to just tune out entirely.
To just shut the video off.
Yep. So by insisting on a continuous story with no filler and explaining it at a 10-year-old's level, the structure ensures the viewer actually retains the foundational knowledge.
Instead of just drowning in jargon and giving up.
Precisely.
So making it feel simple is actually a defensive shield against adult financial anxiety.
That's a great way to put it.
It's a feature, not a bug. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And we see that psychological approach immediately when we look at the actual narrative, the framework construct.
Right, because it doesn't start with the math.
No, not at all. It doesn't start with spreadsheets or banking. It starts by addressing this massive mystery right out of the gate. It asks, Why do millions of people earning six figures still stay broke?
And that is such a powerful hook because it challenges a core assumption.
Because everyone thinks more money solves the problem.
Exactly. Most people believe that if they just earned a higher salary, all their financial problems would vanish.
Right.
But by highlighting six-figure earners who are still living paycheck to paycheck, it completely forces the viewer to realize that the mechanics of wealth aren't just about income.
Yeah, and it transitions right from that into the fear of money, focusing on what it calls invisible scripts.
The invisible scripts.
This concept really resonated with me. It basically argues that we all have these subconscious narratives running in the background about wealth.
And those invisible scripts dictate our behavior without us even realizing it, right?
Exactly.
Like, the script might be something you heard your parents say when you were a kid, something like, money is the root of all evil.
Or rich people are greedy.
Yeah. Or even just a personal belief, like, well, I'm just not a math person, so I'll never understand investing.
It's like a computer virus.
Well, that's a good analogy.
If your operating system is infected with a script that says you are fundamentally bad with money, no new financial software you install is going to work properly.
Right.
You will literally subconsciously sabotage yourself to align with your own internal belief.
And the real danger of those invisible scripts is how quiet they are. You don't even know they're running.
So true.
The framework knows that you cannot teach a new mechanical system for wealth until you have cleared out the emotional debris that is currently occupying that space.
You have to clear the cache.
Yeah. It requires the creator to use simple, everyday examples so the viewer actually recognizes their own internal monologue and calls it out.
And just as the viewer is feeling really good about fixing their mindset, we hit this brilliant structural pivot.
The cliffhanger.
Yes. The script ends the section by explicitly stating, but changing your mindset alone won't make you rich.
I love that.
I love this subversion too. It completely punches a hole in that standard internet trope of, just think positive and you'll manifest wealth.
Right, because it validates the psychological work the viewer just did, but it immediately grounds them back in reality.
Like, great job, but we need to do real work now.
Exactly. Positive thinking is entirely insufficient on its own. You actually need practical tools.
And that logical progression brings us to perhaps the most misunderstood financial tool of all, which is where the blueprint goes next.
Credit cards.
Credit cards. If invisible scripts are the software bug, credit cards are usually seen as the malware.
Oh, absolutely.
But the framework explicitly frames them as tools, not enemies. It tells the creator to break down what a credit score actually is.
And how rich people use credit wisely rather than just telling people to, cut up their plastic.
Right.
Which really raises an important point about how society views debt,
Yeah, because debt is always the bad guy.
Exactly. A lot of traditional financial advice demonizes credit cards entirely. They treat them as inherently dangerous.
Like they're just traps designed to keep you broke.
Right. But this blueprint recognizes them as a foundational element of the modern financial infrastructure.
Okay, unpack that a little.
Well, a credit score isn't a judgment of your moral character.
Though it definitely feels like it sometimes.
It really does.
Yeah.
But it's simply a metric of how reliable you are at borrowing and returning money. That's it.
So instead of hiding from credit cards, the goal is to understand the game.
Yes.
If you pay it off in full every single month, it's a tool that builds your liability score, which later gets you better rates on a house or a car.
Exactly. It shifts the narrative completely from victimhood to empowerment.
And once that fear of credit is gone, the psychological path is completely clear. The audience is finally ready for the actual machinery.
Right, mechanics.
Right, so my invisible scripts are cleared, my credit card is a tool. Where does the actual money go?
Good question.
This is where the framework maps out the banking and investing engines. And keeping with its own rules, it avoids technical term in favor of simple concepts.
No jargon.
Right. Starting with banking, it focuses heavily on high-yield savings accounts, or HYSAs.
Which is a crucial distinction from a traditional savings account.
Right, because my regular bank gives me practical nothing.
Exactly. A traditional bank might give you an interest rate of 0.01%.
It's insulting.
It really is. They take your money, lend it out to someone else at a much higher rate, and just keep the massive difference as profit.
But a high-yield savings account is different.
Yeah, usually they're from an online bank without the massive overhead of physical branches, so they can give a much larger cut of that profit back to you.
Okay, so your money is actually doing a little bit of work for you just by sitting there.
Right.
But the real heavy lifting happens in the next phase, investing.
The scary part.
Yeah. And I have to admit, whenever I hear terms like mutual fund, index fund, ETF,
It's a lot.
my eyes glaze over a bit. It just sounds like Wall Street word salad.
Totally.
If we are applying the 10-year-old rule here, how does this blueprint actually differentiate them?
Well, it tackles this by making a very clear distinction right away. Investing isn't gambling.
Okay.
See, Wall Street thrives on the perception of complexity, because complexity is what allows institutions to charge really high fees.
To make you feel like you need them.
Exactly. So for decades, the standard was the mutual fund. In a mutual fund, a highly paid Wall Street manager tries to pick the winning stocks.
They're basically trying to guess which companies will beat the market.
Right, and for that quote-unquote expertise, they charge you a significant fee, usually around 1 or 2% of your money.
And they charge that whether they actually win or lose, right?
Oh, yes. Whether they beat the market or lose all your money, they get their fee.
And mathematically, most of them lose to the market average over the long term anyway.
Precisely. Which is why the framework points the viewer toward index funds.
Okay, how is that different?
Instead of paying a guy in a suit to try and pick the winning horse in a race, an index fund just buys the whole racetrack.
Oh, I love that.
An S&P 500 index fund, for example, simply holds a tiny slice of the 500 largest companies in America.
So it's automated.
Completely. If a company fails, it just drops out of the index, and a successful one replaces it automatically. It's a self-cleansing mechanism with incredibly low fees.
So you're not betting on a single company. You're just betting that the broader economy will continue to grow over time.
Exactly.
And that ties directly into the next massive concept the blueprint demands.
Yeah.
Compound interest.
Yes.
The idea that time is actually more important than money.
Compound interest is one of those concepts that sounds like a dry math textbook, but it is actually the core engine of wealth.
I always think of it like a snowball rolling down a hill.
Yes, the classic snowball.
Right. At first, you're just packing a tiny snowball yourself. That's your initial investment.
Yep.
As you roll it, it picks up a little bit of snow. That's the interest.
Right, the early days.
But as it gets bigger, the surface area increases. Soon, the snowball is picking up huge chunks of snow all on its own without you having to push it as hard.
And eventually, the interest is making more money than your original contribution.
Your money is having little money babies. And then those babies are having babies.
That's exactly how the math works. Getting that snowball rolling early is far more powerful than trying to build a massive snowball by hand later in life.
It makes so much sense.
And by breaking investing down to simple automated index funds and the math of compound interest, the structure actively removes the emotional panic normally associated with the stock market.
It takes the power away from the opaque financial institutions.
And hands it directly back to the individual.
Wow. And throughout this entire banking and investing section, we hit what might actually be the core philosophy of the entire source document.
Which is?
The idea that automation beats willpower.
Oh, yeah. That phrase alone is the linchpin of this entire financial system.
It really is. It makes me think of like trying to stick to a really strict diet.
Okay.
If you rely on your own willpower every single day to not eat the cookies sitting in your pantry, eventually you're going to have a stressful day at work.
Oh, totally.
Your willpower will crack, and you will eat a whole sleeve of Oreos.
Been there.
Right. It is genuinely exhausting to constantly police your own behavior. But if you automate the process, like if you just never buy the cookies at the grocery store in the first place.
Then you don't even need willpower.
Exactly.
Because willpower is a finite resource. By the end of the day, it is depleted.
Yeah.
The framework recognizes that relying on daily financial discipline is a losing game.
You can't just try harder.
No, you can't. If you have to manually transfer money into your savings or investment accounts every month, eventually you'll find a reason not to.
There's always an emergency.
Right. So by automating it, you remove the decision-making process entirely.
Which brings us to a lingering question I think any viewer would reasonably have at this point.
Which is?
Okay, I understand the psychology. I have my high-yield savings account. I have my automatic index funds.
Good job.
But wait, how do I actually fund all of this without living a completely miserable, penny-pinching life where I can't even buy a cup of coffee?
The structure anticipates that exact friction.
Oh, of course it does.
And rather than offering a spreadsheet, it introduces the conscious spending plan.
This is where it unpacks why traditional budgeting usually fails. And I feel like everyone listening has, at some point, tried to build a meticulous budget, tracking every single dollar, only to completely abandon it by February because it feels like a second job.
We hate budgets because they are inherently restrictive and backward-looking.
Backward-looking, what do you mean?
They focus almost entirely on what you did wrong last month and what you cannot do this month.
Oh yeah, the guilt.
Right. It relies heavily on that finite willpower we just talked about, basically making you feel guilty for every minor deviation.
Instead, this conscious spending approach is forward-looking.
Yes.
It outlines a system of handling fixed expenses first, meaning your rent and utilities. Then you invest a percentage and you save a percentage automatically.
The automation again.
Always. But once those 3 buckets are filled, the rest of the money goes into my absolute favorite category, guilt-free spending.
And if we connect this back to the early psychological hurdles, this concept of guilt-free spending is how you finally defeat the fear of money.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Because if your automated system guarantees that your bills are paid, your savings are growing, and your future is funded through investments.
The money that is left over in your checking account is truly yours.
Exactly. You can spend it on whatever brings you joy, whether that's expensive lattes, designer shoes, or travel.
And without a single shred of anxiety.
None.
It's about spending extravagantly on the things you love, as long as you cut costs mercilessly on the things you don't care about.
That's the secret.
And that actually sets up the climax of the script. The ultimate goal of this entire roadmap is to automate every single paycheck to achieve that effortless state.
Right.
The framework explicitly states, consistency beats motivation.
Effortless because the machine runs itself. The money comes in, and before you even have a chance to look at it, it is instantly routed to your checking, your savings, and your investments.
You're going before you can spend it.
Yeah. There are no daily choices to make. And where there are no choices, there is no opportunity for emotional self-sabotage.
And that is what the blueprint calls the biggest twist and final reveal.
I love this part.
It commands the creator to drop this realization on the viewer. Becoming rich isn't about earning millions of dollars. It's about creating a system that works automatically even while you sleep.
It redefines the very concept of wealth.
It really does.
It shifts it away from the image of like a dragon hoarding a massive pile of gold.
Right?
Wealth is reframed as a well-oiled machine operating silently in the background of your life, buying you back your time and peace of mind.
But here is where the blueprint pulled one last psychological trick that really caught me off guard.
Oh.
It's in the call to action, the CTA.
Yeah.
We're all used to YouTube videos ending with someone screaming, smash that subscribe button.
Rate, like, and subscribe.
But this document explicitly instructs the creator, do not ask viewers to subscribe immediately.
Which goes against everything you learn as a creator.
Literally everything. Instead, it tells them to ask the viewer to take one small action today to change their life.
Wow.
The exact script says, if this book changed the way you think about money, imagine what happens when you actually apply it. Start with one small action today. And if you'd like more life-changing book summaries like this, make sure you're part of this journey.
Let's look at the underlying logic of that choice, because it is a masterful stroke of audience psychology.
Please explain.
So their anti-budget approach to personal finance and the anti-subscribe approach to YouTube growth, they actually accomplish the exact same objective.
Wait, really?
Yes. They both remove friction by focusing on the user's experience rather than the creator's demands.
Oh, wow. I didn't even put those two concepts together.
The strategy proves that providing real, tangible value like offering a genuine transformation rather than asking for a cheap transaction is the ultimate way to build trust.
That is brilliant.
If you end a video by demanding a subscription right away, you position yourself as just another creator begging for engagement. You're taking from the viewer.
Yeah, it feels transactional.
But if you prioritize their life change, if you urge them to take one small action purely for their own benefit, you build profound trust. You establish yourself as a guide.
Which naturally leads to much higher long-term retention and genuine loyalty.
Exactly.
Okay, so to wrap this all up, today's source material really delivered a masterclass on two completely different fronts.
Yeah, it really did.
First, we got a highly concentrated, actionable financial roadmap. Identify and fix your invisible scripts about money. Understand credit cards as a tool to build reliability. Build automated banking and investing engines using HYSAs and index funds.
And spend consciously without trapping yourself in a miserable budget.
Yes. And on the second front, we uncovered a highly effective psychological roadmap for communication.
Right. To keep people engaged, you have to manage their cognitive load.
Use frequent hooks, maintain a constant state of curiosity, employ cliffhangers to pull the audience forward, and use incredibly simple language to make complex information accessible.
And unforgettable.
It just goes to show you that having the right information isn't enough. You have to package it in a way that the human brain is actually wired to consume.
Absolutely.
But before we sign off, what is the biggest takeaway you want the listener to leave with today?
Well, the entire core of this financial framework is the idea that automation beats willpower, right?
Right.
And that removing daily emotion from your decision-making is the real secret to consistency.
Yeah.
So for you listening, ask yourself, what other areas of your life, maybe your health, your learning habits, or your career progression, are you currently trying to force through with sheer, exhausting willpower when what you really need to build is an automatic system?
Oof. That is a question that is going to stick with me. We started this deep dive talking about magic tricks and looking at the hidden wires behind the illusion.
Yep.
It turns out, whether you're trying to build wealth, build an audience, or just build better habits, the real magic isn't in the massive effort you show on stage. It's in the invisible, automated systems you build behind the scenes.
Perfectly said.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Whether you're setting up a high-yield savings account today, rethinking your invisible scripts, or just looking differently at how you consume your digital media, we hope you take that blueprint's advice and take one small action today. See you next time.